Welcome YouTube. It's been a while. I want to go ahead and try to wrap up this how to play Warhammer Fantasy series. The next section is going to be the close combat section. Close combat, in my opinion, is the second most important phase of all the phases. If you remember from my earlier video, the first phase, I feel like the most important, is the movement phase. You can take a crappy unit and get it in the flank of a good unit, and that unit can break a better unit. So let's get started. Alright, in this example, here we have 20 White Lions, High Elf White Lions. That's one unit. They are 4 ranks deep. Remember, to have a rank in Warhammer, you have to be 5 wide, which these are, and to get a combat bonus for every rank past the first one. So this one doesn't count. Right now you'd have +1, +2, +3. So you'd have a +3 combat bonus. Not counting the standard. Standard will give you another +1. And then if you outnumber someone, that also gives you a +1. Okay? They'll be going up against the dreaded gray ghouls. The reason they're gray ghouls is, well, they're all bare plastic. They haven't even been primed and anything. And there's also 20 of these guys. If you notice, these guys, they don't have any command. So that sort of hurts them a little bit. They also have 20 in numbers. So let's get down to the first part. Alright, let's say it's the High Elf's turn, and the High Elves get the charge off on the ghouls. So they would go, they'd move straight forward. Now in Fantasy, if you remember in your rule book, you're supposed to maximize models. In previous editions, you'd have stuff called clipping, where it would, if this Uber unit would be at a slight disadvantage because all their expensive models don't get to attack because they're not all touching. Well, in this book, you're supposed to maximize models, and if someone tells you different, well, then they're just flat out cheating. Don't play with them. Okay. Alright, unlike in 40K, for the most part in Fantasy, the person that gets the charge off goes first. Well, the High Elves currently have a special rule that allows them to always strike first. This sort of breaks the order in which attacks happen. A lot of people out there have heartburn with it, but every army in Warhammer has their own special rules, and that just happens to be one of theirs. Alright, so let's get on to combat. In combat, everybody in the front row gets to attack if you have hand weapons. So since the High Elves would go first, you can see there's 5 of them, that would be 5 attacks. If you paid the points to upgrade one of these guys to a unit champion, then he typically provides an additional attack. So that would be 6 attacks. And unlike in 40K, any model you kill is considered destroyed and cannot attack back. We'll go through an example of that. Alright, the White Lions, they have a higher weapon skill than the ghouls. So there is a unit champion, so it'd be 6 attacks. They're hitting on 3s. So there's my roll. As you can see, not too good, only 3 hit. And since they're considered having great weapons, they're basically going to wound on 2s. Oh, that was really craptastic. 1 wound, as you can see. The ghouls, they don't have any armor, so 1 would die. He technically dies from the front rank, but to make things easier, you just pull 1 from the back. And always place him here to that way it's easier to keep track when it's your turn. So the ghouls will attack back. Now remember, the ghouls, there was 5, 1 died, so that leaves 4. These guys have 2 attacks apiece. They have a special rule called poison, and their weapon skill is lower. If you look at the chart on 40K and Fantasy, it's the same to hit and to wound charts. They need 4s. So let's see what the ghouls do. Alright. Okay, the ghouls rolled pretty good. Needed 4s to hit. No 6s. A 6 on the roll to hit is a poison hit, which means it automatically does a wound. A 6 on a roll to wound is killing blow if your unit has killing blow. Some people get that confused, just to let you guys know. Alright, they're strength 3, elves are toughness 3, so we need 4s to wound those pesky high elves. Oh, my dice are just not too happy. Alright, you can see that there are 2 wounds, so that means the high elves will get 2 armor saves. Okay, armor saves in this game are a little bit different. They're different than in 40K. In 40K, you just match the AP of your weapon to the armor, and if it equals or exceeds it, no armor save. Fantasy's a little bit different. For every strength above 3, you get -1 to your save. Well, the ghouls were strength 3, so there's no minus. Okay, so they would get their full armor save. These guys have on heavy armor, which means they can save on a 5+. So, let's see what happens. Alright. Rolled a 5 and a 3. That means 1 white lion dies, and the other one's armor saved. Okay, as you can tell, I moved that one over to the side. Okay, here's where the crux of close combat, where a lot of people get confused, is counting up combat res. Okay? For combat resolution, the things you get bonuses for are ranks, like we talked about. So for every rank past the first one, you get, if it's 5 wide, you get +1 up to +3. Okay, in the close combat phase, of all the bonuses, the only bonus that you get before the start of combat is rank bonus. So if you remember, before combat, this guy was actually alive, and so was this ghoul. So the high elves have +3. You know, I hate to say this, but I've played against people whose math is not that good, whether it's on purpose or not. So I went to using this dice method, and it really keeps track, and it eliminates anyone's new math. Let's just call it that. We don't want to call anyone a cheater. But here's the way I keep track of combat resolution. Alright. The high elves killed 1. The crypt ghouls killed 1. They have +3. There's 3 more dice for ranks, which are counted at the start of the combat. The ghouls also have +3. Notice we're counting the whole dice, not the numbers on the dice. So right now it's 4 to 4. Okay. Here's the difference. Right here, this guy, I don't know if you can see it, has a standard. A standard gives you +1. Okay. Who outnumbers? You count the unit strength. Both of these units are at 19, so no one gets that bonus. So right now, the elves are 5 to the ghouls 4, so they win by 1. Okay, if this was a regular opponent and not an undead opponent, then you would make your armor save, your leadership at -1. So if you had a leadership of 9, since you lost combat by 1, then you'd have to roll an 8 to stay. Undead, whether it's Tomb Kings or Vampire Counts, they lose by 1, so they crumble or take another casualty. No armor saves allowed. So basically that makes it now 19 to 18. Okay, in the second round of combat, it goes straight by initiative. The elves would go first because they have a higher initiative, even though they have the always strike first rule, but let's just pretend they don't have that. So they would go first.